This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR Steelers Nation Radio.
Yin's hot.
Welcome to The Drive. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we are here in Orlando. We are at the Ritz-Carlton, where the league meetings will take place these next few days here, Matt. And
things are picking up around here.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy couple of days as well. We'll have some, hopefully, some guests on here over the next few days. We'll be broadcasting here today, of course, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The big thing that's going to happen here, Matt, are some of the rule changes that are going to be voted on that the league is looking at, or proposals that they're looking at here. And one of them actually proposed by the Steelers.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, that would be.
You want to dig into those?
We could call this one the Matt Williamson rule because.
Oh, I don't think we will do that.
So the Steelers are one of, I believe it's like 6 teams that have proposed moving the date of the trade
deadline.
The trade deadline back. The Steelers have proposed 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
There's like five other teams have proposed moving it back 2 weeks.
I remember last year it fell on Halloween,
yeah.
So they want to go to 9 or maybe to 10.
The Steelers have proposed 9, which will get you halfway through the over the halfway point. The other teams have proposed moving it to 10, week 10.
So the only reason I've heard not to do it is, well, we've never done that before, or it's been like this in the past. Like, I don't know the other leagues as well, but the other 3 major sports have it well after the 50% mark of the.
They play more games, though, too.
They do,
so
but I mean, it's still lowest common denominator. I mean, like by Halloween, half the teams don't know if they're in or out of it. I mean, I think they should push it back a month.
Well, you don't think there should be a trade deadline,
right? I mean, I don't. I mean, like if 2 teams agree on a deal, no one's tanking it. You know what I mean? Like. I don't know. I mean, I think the later the better almost, or make it Thanksgiving at least. I mean, because I think there'll be more action. I mean, when Halloween rolled around last year, half the teams were like, we're 1 game over, we're 1 game under, we're at 500. Should we go all in to try to win it this year? Should we sell our dudes? I don't know yet.
Here's what the NFL doesn't want.
Because then the injury hits too.
The NFL does not want to happen is what you're kind of talking about there, where a team tanks the last month of the season and nobody goes to the games. They sell at a fire sale. Yeah, and nobody goes to the games, nobody watches them on TV, and it's a bad product. That's what they don't want. I know
that is worth bringing up. I mean, that's the rule, or that's the reasoning against it, is maybe Washington or Carolina, they have the top 2 picks. The Patriots would have sold all their remaining assets at the very end.
Everything must go.
Yeah. However, that would also drum up even more interest for this time of year. I mean, think of all the picks they would have.
Well, that's great, but that doesn't fill the stadiums when they're the final month of the season when they're
understood.
Where it doesn't
But the tickets are probably sold.
The TV product is the big thing.
The TV product would be bad.
Yeah,
right.
It would be awful.
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of games in Week 18 that are bad that there's no way around it.
Well, the league doesn't want they you don't want
more
of that. Think about it the way it was last year. I mean, going into the last couple of weeks of the season, because of the expanded playoffs, 80% of the league was still alive for something.
Right. No, they've done a great job of that, keeping all these teams very relevant late in the season, which is great. I just don't think the trade deadline needs to be as early as it is, because I just think you're making teams make a decision, are we buyers or sellers, too early.
Well, I mean, it is where it's at now.
I do think it should exist.
It was the halfway point of the season when they were still at 16 games.
Right.
Now I
still think that's too early.
Now that things have expanded, now you can go ahead and move it back. I think that one will probably end up getting past either the 1 game or 2 games.
I do think it'll get moved.
When you have that many teams proposing this, it's probably going to get changed.
No, that makes sense. I didn't realize the Steelers were the first to propose it, though.
They weren't the first, but they were one of the teams that I don't know who was first. But
okay.
There was a number of teams
because they listened to the drive, probably
proposed it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sure.
That was it. That's why I call it the Matt Williamson rule. That's what
first one ever come up with that.
Yes. So some other things that they're going to talk about.
This convoluted kickoff thing is crazy. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's crazy. Okay.
All right. So the competition committee wants to allow for enforcement of a major foul by the offense prior to a change of possession in a situation where there are fouls by both teams. So if the offense commits a foul before the change of possession.
Okay.
Because the way it is now, if
a holding call before an interception,
personal foul, major foul.
Oh, major foul.
Yeah.
Okay, like a major hands to the face by your offensive tackle before your quarterback throws a pick.
Yeah.
Okay, as of now, that wouldn't count. That wouldn't tack on to the end of the return, or does it?
Well, they're saying that there's also a foul by the defense on the.
All right, give me an example, please. I'm a little confused.
I'm
now.
a little confused by it as well.
Okay. Some of the way they write these
somebody's going to have to explain these ones, that one
Okay.
to me a little bit more. But I think what they're saying is that if the offense, let's say there's a
low block or an illegal
chop block or something like that,
right.
that's
before an interception
before
happens.
the interception happens. But while the interception is happening, there's also a
defensive hands to the face or something.
Now those would be offsetting. What they're
Yes.
saying is because the offense did it first, I believe then the pick would stand.
I think the pick still stands as it stands today, right?
No, it'd be offsetting.
Offsetting replay down.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I understand it.
I mean, obviously we're a little unclear on this, but I think if a pick happens and under those circumstances, it should be a change of possession.
Yeah. I think that's what they're saying.
I think that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying here.
Okay. I'm on board then.
Also by the competition committee. This one's, you see this every once in a while, to include the competition committee to include a ruling of a passer down by contact or out of bounds before throwing a pass as a reviewable play. So you're allowed to then challenge that. Was he at it? Because you've seen the one where the guy's along the sidelines and he's throwing the ball and maybe he steps out of bounds.
Mahomes and Allen are always
there's
doing that tight wire.
Or the guy's down. You can't review that right now.
You should be able to review that.
What they're saying is that would be you'd be able to review that.
I think there's more examples of that now than Dan Fouts in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the quarterbacks are on the move more often.
Yeah, it happens.
This is one I think the fans will really like because you hear this one screamed about a lot. This is also by the competition committee to allow a replay review where there is clear and obvious visual evidence that the game clock expired before the snap.
Oh, okay. That's like the NBA shot clock type thing.
Yeah.
That should definitely happen.
You should. I wish you could also review if the tackle's left early. That would
be nice. I don't think that's in the cards.
Because that's another one that
they're doing a lot of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They get that early start on that.
And they let them do a little early start. I mean, there's a little bit of a flexibility.
Call that one the
there.
Lane Johnson rule.
Mm-hmm. No, he's good at that. The Kansas City Chief rule.
Yeah, they did it quite a bit. Of course, the big one is to eliminate a potentially dangerous tackling technique, which would be the hip drop tackle.
Yeah, and I don't know if everyone knows what this means. I think they define it there, but it's basically like I jump on your back and I pull all my weight, so
I
it
slide down your body and
yeah,
land on your legs.
And land on your legs with all my weight, like against your back of your calves, basically. So I know
Steeler fans think the Le'Veon Bell play with Vontaze Burfict along the sidelines. That's how Le'Veon got hurt. That was a hip drop tackle.
So I know a lot of people are like, well, what do you want defenses to do? You already can't hit him in the head. You already can't hit him in the knees. But to me, the playing field is level for everyone. And a problem that we often talk about, an underlying problem in the league, is there's not enough scoring. So I think a lot of these type of rules are going to favor the offense. When in doubt, because fantasy football and betting overs and touchdowns are fun and all those type of things. Now, and it is a dangerous play. From what I understand, and I'm not a rugby expert, but if we had rugby experts sitting here, they would be like, I can't believe you didn't disallow this 20 years ago. Because I think I'm pretty sure that they have disallowed this long ago. You're not allowed to do this in the rugby world because it's dangerous. I mean, it's like a horse collar situation.
Yeah, you're coming down on the back. That's you see so many injuries happen with that. Guys get his ankle gets pinned underneath him, or the knee gets twisted underneath the bodies.
And I feel for linebackers and defensive backs, but the days of Jack Tatum taking their head off are gone, and there are clotheslines of Lynn Swan and all those type of things, and there would be an adjustment, but the defenders adjust. I mean, there'd be a lot of penalties in the meantime, but they adjust. It takes 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bother me.
This is another one by the competition committee to expand the crackback prohibition to players who go in motion and move beyond the center to block a defender at or below the knee. Think about that one. That would probably
like jet motion.
That was the T.J. Watt play against Detroit 2 years ago in the preseason,
Yeah.
where the tight end comes in motion across the formation and goes low
And
on
goes
one.
low.
Yeah.
I would disallow. I would make that rule change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
a safety issue.
Yeah, it's not much different than a crackback block, a Hines Ward type block, especially if you go low like that. Yeah, that's a lot to ask an edge defender. Yeah, I would make that change.
And then finally is the
crazy kickoff stuff.
The crazy kickoff rule. As they
folks,
write
pay
it here.
attention because this can get crazy, especially without like a graphic where you tell everyone where they're lined up.
This one's to create a new form of free kick play that is designed to resemble a typical scrimmage play by aligning players on both teams closer together. So what they're saying, I think it's the defense lines up at the team receiving the ball lines up at the 30, I believe.
Okay.
And the defense lines up at the 35. The guys who
I know
were
they're
covering
super
the
close. I was thinking they were 10 yards apart.
Maybe it is 10 yards.
Okay.
The kicker is back kicking from his 35.
Which I have one glitch with, but we could get to in a minute.
Yeah. And, of course,
so there's a 10-man wall and a kicker well behind them.
Yes.
And his whole goal is not to – we can get to this. I'm getting ahead of us. But
okay.
To use a golf term, his whole goal is not just to get the driver out and blast it into the seats like he does now. That's what they're trying to avoid. They want kickoffs to matter. So what they want him to do, and they're going to penalize him heavily if he doesn't, is they want him to get the wedge out or the 7-iron.
Place it.
And put it between the 20 and the goal line in bounds. And if you don't, you feel shame and you go to the penalty box. I mean, like, it's bad. You know, I forget what the rules are. And I think almost every NFL kicker could do that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things. I mean, maybe you could read through the rules a little bit, too. There's a lot to it.
The coverage team set up at the opposing 40, with the receiving team setting up at the 35.
So they're that close. I was thinking it's 10, but it is 5. Okay.
The team kicks the ball from the 35. If the ball is kicked into the end zone in the air, it goes to the 20. If it is short of the if it's kicked into the end zone, they get it at the 35.
Yeah, I think they don't want it going to the end zone.
If it's a touchback, it's at the 35. If it's inside the 20 and rolls into the end zone,
so there's different rules.
Then you get it at the 20.
Yes. Okay.
So they
want you to field it.
They want you to field it, and they want you to try to return it.
That's all they're looking for here, without massive collisions.
What they don't want are the massive guys running 50 yards downfield and taking somebody's head
flipping
off.
Their head around, things like that. So if you look further in it, there's two things that worry me a little. I was thinking they were 10 yards apart, but it's a bigger deal now that's 5 yards apart. So you're the front wall on the return team.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, and what is that, 6, 7, 8 guys, whatever. I should know that off the top of my head. Maybe that would change in a shorter field. Well, those guys aren't allowed to move
until the ball goes over their head. Right?
Well, I think until your player touches it.
Okay.
And there's rules about when you're allowed to leave. I think it's true for the blockers and it's true for the guys that run down, the way I understand it. So what worries me is if I'm 5 yards away from a rookie year James Harrison trying to run down and destroy my return guy, I'm looking backwards first because I got to make sure he touches the ball before – and he's not allowed to leave before then either. So we both leave at the same time. It's like a snap count thing, but it's when my player touches the ball, from what I understand, which is okay. I mean, it's still 5 yards to react.
Right.
But there would be returns. Here's a real glitch that I think is important, but I've been making jokes about it on my other networks. If I have a 10-man return team, and 5 yards ahead of them are my blockers, and I got my kicker way back here, 15 yards behind them. What about on windy days? On windy days, I got to get someone to be loosey and hold the ball like this.
Right.
Well, he's now 15 yards behind his teammates. Like I'm rushing with 9. Or do you?
Such is life.
I guess. Windy. You do everything possible for that ball not to blow off the tee. I guess.
You have to deal with that when you're kicking it up.
And he's got to get up.
Anyways. He's got to get up and run.
It's a disadvantage of the kickoff tee.
Yeah.
But now they just kick it out of the end zone.
Yeah.
Now you actually have to do something that holder.
Well,
either
that or you just kick it high in the air and try to get them to fair catch it inside. Do
you know fair catches still exist?
I would assume so.
I think that rule changed too. There's a lot to this rule,
okay.
And I also know that kicking it out of bounds now even hurts you more. I think. So they really want to land it on the green.
Yeah.
Like the whole goal is here: land it on the green, without as much violence, and have returners matter.
Yeah.
Which all that sounds great, but it sounds like if I'm Danny Smith, do I want this to happen?
Well, the interesting thing is,
it's getting so many more reps.
Does it take the squib kick out of the game?
I think it does. I don't think you're allowed.
You can't squib it up there and hit one of your own guys in the back.
I don't think you're allowed to squib it. I think if it lands before the 20-yard line, it's a penalty too. It's like going in a sand trap. Like they penalize you. I think you have to land it between 20 and 10.
Yeah.
And on a windy day, I guess that's still not hard for an NFL kicker, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just a lot to it.
Yeah, I mean, they're good.
It would be confusing.
The kickers are much better now than they were 30 years ago. And this is really, I think this came from the XFL.
It does. It does. Yeah, they do
this
the
is
exact
a rule
same
that came
thing.
from the XFL.
So at least you could see it in practice.
Seen it, you've seen it work. Okay, that does work. Now,
I wonder if this is a year away from being an NFL.
They're only going to do it. I think they're only talking about doing it for a year. So they just want to try it out, which is weird too because
it is weird because again, if you're Danny Smith, well, we got to, even
teach
my
it this way this year, teach it another way next year.
I mean, even my Killebrews that have been helping me teach the rest of the rookies.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing either.
Right.
And what's the best strategy? I mean, do you want to kick it high? Do you want to kick? I don't know. I mean, do you want to kick it into the corners? But I think you get penalized heavy if it goes out of bounds. There's a lot to it. I mean, so if this rule goes through, I want to investigate it further.
Yeah, and we'll learn more about it as it's talked about and talked through. But that's what they're looking at doing here. We got to get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You are listening to The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. We are in Orlando at the NFL Spring Meetings here at the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice joint, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Would highly recommend it if you can.
Stop by.
Can get in here. Anyways, let's get to a break. We'll be back with more on The Drive right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley here with Matt Williamson at the NFL spring meetings, and we're pleased to be joined now by our. We've done this before a little bit, Rob. We got Rob King here with us. He's here with us down in beautiful Orlando.
Are we going to do the keys to the owners meeting?
We're going to do keys to the owners meeting. Actually, what we're going to do here, Rob, is keys to the off season and what's happened already for the Steelers, and they've been a little busy.
It's hard for me not to be really bullish on what they've done. I mean, I really like. When you think about the team, what they did last year, how they got into the playoffs, winning 3 games when they got kind of decent quarterback play, right? That had been lacking. They've been very inconsistent. And now you had a guy with Russell Wilson's resume who, let's face it, that's what they want him to be, a decent quarterback. They're not asking him to, go out and Patrick Mahomes.
He's Superman.
And win games for you by himself. That excites me, that you could win more games with him at the quarterback position. And then Fields, I think, guys will be, more than your average, second quarterback.
Yeah.
You can kick the tires on him, but you can also get him involved. You can, the average second quarterback standing over the clipboard. Well, he could get in goal line situations, short yardage situations. Maybe come up with some plays for him. And this isn't, this isn't a guy, running the Wildcat who can't throw the ball too. So I just think there's a lot of interesting things they can do. I think you start there with the quarterback room being much improved.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like a better version of Taysom Hill. There's going to be a package for Fields. He's a better passer than a guy like Taysom Hill, but he could come in and run it 10 times in a row if you needed to.
It's kind of like the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson his rookie year.
Early Lamar. Yeah. But Fields is even more accomplished and experienced than that.
Oh yeah, you can actually do more than what they did with Lamar. Lamar didn't throw the ball a lot when they had those early packages in. He was usually there to run something. Now you got a guy who can run or pass that you put in there. Even if the Steelers don't do it or don't do it much, if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator, I'm preparing for it.
Absolutely,
because they can bring it out on you at any minute. I mean,
and
you
I'm sure
know
Fields is going to get a lot of preseason snaps.
Yeah,
more so than Wilson.
And he's what? Outside of Lamar Jackson, top 1 or 2 running quarterbacks.
I think he's better. Yeah,
I mean, just because he's so physical and he breaks tackles.
More than Lamar, you're saying?
More than Lamar. I think he might even win a foot race with Lamar. I don't think he wins a quickness battle with Lamar, a stop-start battle with Lamar. But Lamar's become a little bit more of a pocket passer and is getting up in age too. I mean, he added a little bit of weight, where Fields is a rocket ship. Yeah,
he's a weapon. And, I think when you look at the team offensively, obviously they have 2 big holes to fill. And they took care of, I think, a lot of things defensively. We bring in Arthur Smith, and you've got, you look at the personnel, and we wring our hands during camp, and how are they going to get Connor Hayward onto the field? How are they going to get? Well, they're not. That's really basic is what winds up happening. But I think that he's a real fit for their personnel. That's what it seems like to me. Anyway, hey, let's get a Mike Shanahan disciple, and that would be exciting. But now you start to think about, okay, well, we have to revamp maybe the way we do things, and what kind of offensive lineman does he want to block his schemes, and do we have the right personnel? Is this going to be now another 2 or 3 years to put together the guys we want personnel-wise? Maybe it wouldn't be quite that of an exaggerated process. But this guy comes in who I think, Arthur Smith, really fits what you already have. And I think that's a bonus.
See, I think it's almost as exciting, not exciting, but as interesting to talk about the new guys, and there's more to come on offense. But also the ones he shipped out. Like Deontay Johnson's contract was expiring. He's not much of a blocker.
Right.
They're also not going to play as much 11 personnel as they did in the past. I mean, Atlanta was at the bottom of the league, so maybe receivers not as much of a priority.
Some of that too is though because somebody tweeted this to me on social on X, I should say. X. Did you say they X'd me?
That's a good point.
X'd me.
Yeah.
Anyways, they said, well,
final.
Arthur Smith is. They've never had the Steelers really need a number 2 receiver because Arthur Smith's never really used one. I'm like, if you look back at his years in Tennessee when they had Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, Corey Davis and A.J.
really
Brown's numbers weren't that much different,
right,
in terms of catches.
Right.
Obviously, A.J. Brown was the better player and got more yards, per catch and things of that nature.
I think the Steelers' 11 personnel will definitely shrink.
Yeah,
but I don't think they'll be last in the league by any stretch.
Yeah.
I mean,
they won't be in the top, but they're not going to be the last.
I do think Smith's done a good job in Atlanta and back to Tennessee with these are your ingredients.
Yes.
Build from there.
Painting the barn red with red paint.
If you have Derrick Henry, there you go. I mean,
no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a hole. I mean, we can't fool ourselves into thinking that's not a hole. You've got a hole there.
Yeah, I think they need 2 receivers.
When I think that's probably right. You'd like to, certainly. Maybe trade for one or sign one and then draft
a veteran
one.
and a mid-round
maybe
pick.
Maybe a guy you could bring along. Going back and doing some research on the beginning of the Chuck Noll years and what he did, he got rid of Roy Jefferson, who was their best receiver. Because he just, whether it's personality or scheme-wise, he just didn't fit. And I'm not sure whether the Steelers will tell us, hey, Deontay Johnson, we want somebody with a better blocking profile, and therefore he doesn't quite fit what we want. So it makes him a little more expendable than you'd think. When you look at that trade and you're like, well, could they have gotten more, done more? Well, maybe they just wanted to, they know they've got to move on from that position because he doesn't fit in with what they do. Now, I don't know whether that was the determining factor, but I'd be a little surprised if it wasn't maybe at least involved in their thought process. Hey, we want somebody who's going to be more physical. I mean, you look at, you watch the 49ers play, and you watch Samuel and Ayuk.
They block.
Oh, I mean, those guys are blocking.
They get after it, yeah.
They get, and of course, they receive as well.
The Falcons guys block, too.
Right.
London, and they're big body guys, and right.
Yeah, so, I think when you look at things defensively, they've gotten younger, which they needed to do on the defensive side. Yeah, that had to be a priority. We talked about it when the signing of Patrick Queen. We didn't think that was going to be possible. Didn't even consider that.
Yep.
Like I didn't think they would be in that market, but the price, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be either. And so you get a guy, at a relatively team-friendly deal for what those guys are going for in the open market, who's still 25 and an ascending player.
Now you have playmakers really at every level of your defense. We know about Benton is a developing guy. Cam Hayward, I think, is going to, maybe he's got one, bounce back season, a little health form. But the two guys on the outside are obviously dynamic. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joey Porter Jr. on the back end. Queen really, fills that hole in the middle. He'll have whoever lines up next to him. I think he's going to have. That trickle-down sort of salubrious effect that great players have on other players next to them.
Words.
Sorry. Sorry about that. But they have that sort of effect on players. They make the player next to them better.
Yeah.
And, the really interesting question, and I'm going to have the opportunity to interview Omar Khan, I think it's tomorrow, that I'd love to know is how do you bore down to the value of that player and take aside all the other things around him? Because let's face it, Patrick Queen was scuffling a little bit. Roquan Smith came in, and then Queen ascended. So how much of that is the arrival of Roquan Smith? Matt's done great work on inside linebackers and how long it takes them to develop and play. So was he at that natural progression point already?
Right,
so
that's what we don't know.
Yeah, how do you take aside all the outside factors? Ravens have a very good defense. How do you take aside all those outside factors and determine this is going to be the guy? You can always raise a red flag if you want to, but to me, I think it's a great signing.
If you look at it, Roquan Smith, the aforementioned Roquan Smith, really his first 3 years in the league were kind of
he stumbled and he didn't live up to top 10.
Year 4, he finally started to get it, and then year 5 is when he gets traded to the Ravens. You could point to that. Almost not every player, not every inside linebacker across the league, but there's a lot of them you can look at that it takes them 3 or 4 years because so much is thrown at them.
It's a really hard position cerebrally now. I mean, like Shanahan manipulates you with all this motion and stuff that you never saw in the Big 12. And the speed of the game's faster. You're taking on better guards. You're trying to run with tight ends and running backs that are legit receivers. Drafting running the linebackers high is bad business, but signing them is not.
Yeah.
That's a great summation. That's a great summation. And he also helps them. You talked about younger. They needed to get younger. They needed to get faster. And you look at. I've always liked Deshaun Elliott. I've always thought he was just a good, solid football player. I don't know a ton about Dante Jackson other than the fact that he can fly. And you see a guy like that and you think maybe slot guy, but I think he's been more of an outside guy.
Pretty much his entire career. Yeah.
So I mean, there's still work to be done. But certainly a lot less on defense to me. And we'll see when Holcomb comes back. But a Landon Roberts, I thought, you talk about a surprise in a season in which you're sifting through all those injuries at inside linebacker. I thought a Landon Roberts showed up a lot better. He's a 2-down guy. Well, okay, maybe ideally, but I thought he showed up pretty well in a lot of 3-down scenarios for him. So, somebody's misfortune was his gain. And if you get Holcomb back, I think you feel pretty good. Man, I mean, Herbig to back you up at the outside linebacker position. You bring Adams back, and you have that depth along the defensive line, an ascending player in Benton. It's hard for me not to be bullish on what they've done. Did they have to grab a corner? Sure. Could they do that early in the draft? If the guy's there, maybe you do.
So you mentioned team speed, and I think that's an underreported thing that's happened this offseason, is the back seven to me, even on their best day when everybody was healthy, let alone at the end of the year when they're on backup safeties and linebackers and pulling dudes off the street. But, I mean, Queen's a 4-4 guy.
Right.
Jackson's a 4-2-9 guy.
Right.
But with all respect to Wallace and Peterson and the slot situation and the linebackers, their back seven was amongst the slowest in the league.
Yes.
And they've clearly addressed that, and I don't think people are catching on to that enough.
Yeah, and Elliott's not a burner, but he runs well enough. He runs better than I think what they had back there.
Yeah. Especially for an in-the-box guy.
Right, because we know Minka can run.
Right.
And I totally agree. I thought the team speed was something that needed to be addressed. And, one of the great things that I think the Steelers have done, going back to Kevin Colbert and, continuing now with Omar Khan, is go into the draft with at least the plausibility that several positions are open for you to draft. I mean, teams always say, we're going to take the best player available. Well, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're going to take the best receiver available or the best quarterback available if you need
There's
that.
3 positions.
I always said it's the best player available at a position of need.
Yes, at a position of need. But I think what the Steelers do is they shrink. They at least give you the plausibility that, hey, we could plug, hey, we can go into camp and say, Herbig and Anderson, you guys are battling it out for the center, or whatever.
I always say that the day before the draft, if the Steelers had to line up and play a game,
right,
they would be able to do so with NFL guys.
Field a team.
Absolutely.
They could field a team of 22 that had NFL capable players at every position. You might be able to overdraft that, but they have the capable guys.
Right.
But I would say, as we stand at the owners' meeting, I bet there's people watching saying, I don't see a second receiver. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure those are legitimate center options for a real.
For sure.
And so I agree with all that, and I think that's definitely a Colbert thing.
We're not done yet.
As I say,
they're not done
think
yet.
another receiver is going to drop.
That's
what I think.
There's another month to go here before we get to the draft.
Before the draft.
Right. I think that would be the big one, to be able to take that off the board and say, okay, we don't really need a receiver. We certainly don't need one high. But again, let's say you're going to draft and Powers Johnson, right, the center that maybe you're eyeing him, but if somebody takes him, you like a tackle. Okay, well,
pivot,
you never take it. You never mind taking a tackle. Or hey, there's a receiver that's really undervalued. I don't know if you'd go there in the first round, but maybe there's one defensive lineman you like. Maybe there's a corner at that position. So I just think that they've kept themselves open to be able to, as close as you can, take the best player available, because you'll have maybe 5 different positions you could, I think, ostensibly choose from.
Yeah, and the way it looks right now, they have 5 pretty high, substantial picks, and I see like 4 needs there. So that gives you some flexibility as well. So we mentioned Omar, and he obviously has a strong salary cap background. I mean, that's where his bread was buttered originally, and you can see it in all his moves since he's been in charge. So it's the value to me has been terrific. Like we talked about before, I'm not interested in Patrick Queen. He's going to make $18 million a year. Well, at 12 or 13, I'm really interested.
Right.
I'm not interested in Justin Fields for a second-round pick, but for a future 6th or 4th, sign me up. That's wonderful, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If you buy a lot of nickel players for 3 cents, that's tremendous, but you'd still need some dollar guys too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like somebody needs to hit out of the group. And I'm confident that they will.
I think you get your dollar guys. That's where those are the guys you draft.
That's Broderick
ideally.
Jones.
Yeah.
That's your next year's first.
Yeah.
That's Benton. Right. And
Joey Porter Jr.
Those they're on rookie deals.
Yeah, right.
And then eventually you could give a quarterback $50 million if you have to, or whatever. Right.
Well, when you think back about the guys the Steelers have gotten over the years, and they're a draft and develop team, obviously, but the guys the valuable guys, whether it's Kimo von Oelhoffen, James Ferrier obviously wound up being a great grab. Ryan Clark, some of these guys that they've taken over the years, I think like a Deshaun Elliott kind of fits that mold for me. Like I think he's going to be a good, solid player. Queen that's different than what we've seen them do traditionally.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that could be a home run.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dollar player that you got for 92 cents, right?
Exactly. So, that's the kind of risk I like.
And that's been a position that inside linebacker position that they've just for whatever reason, they've tried to draft him. They've tried to go for the nickel players to make it work. Now they're finally, they finally spent the money on a guy who is an ascending player that I'm not going to say he's Ryan Shazier, but he's Ryan Shazier-like.
He's in the same neighborhood, right, or trending that direction at least. And,
I think
he's really young and he's really durable.
And I think if you get Holcomb back and he's healthy and overcomes that severe injury and comes back to being, I thought he was really impressive, especially just before he got hurt. I mean, he started out okay, and then he looked good, and he can run, and Queen can run. You talk about the speed on the back seven. Both those guys will be able to add to that. Again, it's I'm just bullish on what they've done. I think right now, projecting out a little bit on I think they'll go get another receiver. They do have a little bit of salary cap room. They've got good high draft choices. I just think they're a much better. We're going to finish the draft. We're going to be heading into that rookie mini camp in the second weekend of May, and we're going to say this is a better team, a substantially better team than the one that walked off the field after a first-round playoff loss in Buffalo. I really believe that, but we'll see. I mean, they still have to finish things off, but I think it's a great start.
They built the base.
They have.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the quarterback position real quick because I'm not picking on Kenny Pickett, but he has 13 career touchdown passes. I mean, Russell Wilson doubled that, even not playing the last 2 games of the season. Last year, on what people thought was not a great year in Denver, he doubled that. You're going to get so many more big plays from the quarterback position, but you're going to get a lot more negatives too. You're going to get sacks. You're going to get interceptions. I mean, Kenny valued the football really well. Rudolph did for his stretch. I mean, that was obviously emphasized here. So I'm really excited about wholesale changes in the quarterback room. I think it's better. I think they have to get big plays out of that position. But there's going to be negatives too. I mean, it's not going to be all rosy.
Yeah, I think that the big hidden numbers there for me are the sacks taken.
Yeah.
The fumbles
that go with
it.
I
mean, it's so easy to look at a guy's quarterback and it's funny. Do they include fumbles in a quarterback rating?
They do not.
They do not. Right. So now you're looking at, I threw 26 touchdowns or whatever, and he had 8 interceptions. Oh, great ratio. Well, let's start thinking.
It's one of the things.
So we're going to put those fumbles in, put those sacks in.
They do a quarterback index every week on NFL.com, and as they rank the quarterbacks, whoever does it, I think it's Adam Rank last year, whoever did it last year, I can't remember. And one of the things they put in there is their touchdown passes, passer rating, interceptions, all that stuff. But they also include the fumbles. And I always make a note to mention that, like when you're talking about the quarterback, sacks and fumbles matter.
They absolutely do.
Either as a runner downfield or in the pocket, not protect the ball.
Those are negative plays that
I expect more negative plays from the quarterback position, but I hope the big plays greatly over
everything balances out to the positive.
Right. It's interesting to me to try to. We all want to get at the truth, and that's what the statisticians and the sabermetrics starting in baseball and moving on to all the different sports, the Corsi ratings and hockey and all these different things. But it's really, really difficult. To me, football is the ultimate team game. I tell this to people all the time. I was working in St. Louis when the Rams traded Bettis to Pittsburgh because they thought he was washed up. Oh, that wear and tear he had in college, and he's just taken so many hits. Well. Then he's trotting into Canton, So it really, and I remember there was a press conference, and the coach Rich Brooks said, "Hey, I told Jerome, if there's not a hole there, I just want you to slam it up in there." And then Jerome came; he was the next guy at the microphone, and somebody asked him, he goes, "What does that mean? Am I supposed to run into the back of my offensive lineman? I mean, what does slamming up in there mean? What does that even mean?" So you have to have linemen to open holes. You have to have, but in the quarterback position. What are you being asked to do?
Right, that's the thing.
What is, is your offensive line good? Did the rookie right guard collapse on the nose tackle and miss the, Patrick Queen coming in the blitz, and now there's nothing you can do about that. So it's really, really hard to parse that out. But I think there's enough in the career of Russell Wilson where you could look at it and say, hey, those sack totals, they need to come down.
They're real. I mean, it's been a yearly, year after year after year thing.
And to me, those fumbles are almost always related to that, right? Like that's when you're getting hit as a quarterback, and that's when the ball's coming out. Obviously,
because he's got huge hands. I mean, if you look at his hands,
I thought we were done with it. We were talking hand size.
I'm just saying.
365
really
years ago.
updated.
I'm watching him at his press conference last week, and he's talking, and I'm like,
they're over 10 inches.
He looks
They're
like he has
crazy,
two catcher's mitts on the end of his arms. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I had to go measure up. Did you measure up when you heard the?
Yeah, I forget what my number was. I came in at 6'0", 2'7" on the height chart, but I think I was just over 9-inch hands.
Okay, yeah, I had plenty big enough.
Quarterback.
I had plenty big enough. Yeah, and that was my problem was throwing it to the wrong color jerseys. That was my problem.
So you're colorblind.
Wasn't fumbling. It was colorblind. That was my issue.
I've never heard that about a quarterback. They're colorblind.
I didn't care who caught it. I just wanted somebody to catch it. I just wanted to continue.
Incompletions. You did not want
Don't let it hit the ball.
incompletions.
Don't let it ground,
Well, we got to get going here. We'll let you go, Rob. Guest has been Rob King here on Steelers Radio Network, here on the Drive, as we're here at the...
Fun to be reunited with you guys.
Absolutely, dude.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll do it again sometime.
Maybe tomorrow. I'll be around
all week.
Have the veal. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We are live from the NFL spring meetings here at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. We'll be back with more in a Drive right after this. Fans, you can gear up with the latest sideline apparel, hats, or jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom items, and exclusives you can find only directly from the team at the official Steelers Pro Shops located at Acrisure Stadium, Grove City Premium Outlets, or Tanger Outlets, or you can visit online at shop.steelers.com. And you might want to go out and get some of those. You might want to get a Patrick Queen jersey.
Queen jersey, Wilson jersey, Fields jersey, all kinds of new ones to pick. Yep, we got some draft picks on the way.
Got some draft picks on the way. I saw Joey Porter Jr. Jersey in the airport yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay.
I hadn't seen too many of those yet. I saw Porter, and I'm like, is that his dad? No, that's Joey Porter Jr.
Huh?
That's
nice.
Junior. So
more of those will be popping up.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, so Matt Miller, has dropped his after some of the pro days now on ESPN has dropped some of his an updated top 50 prospect ranking, and he does his a little bit differently because he does pro comps with these guys.
Yeah, and comps are tricky. Like, I'm terrible at them, to be honest with you. I get a real kick out of people like, I heard this one the other day. He's like, he's a faster Larry Fitzgerald. He's a 6'3" Steve Smith. You know, he's a little bit better Jim Brown. You know, like, relax, guys. You know, but I do think Miller does a better job of. People don't want to hear, like, I heard this one the other day. Polk, the wide receiver from Washington's a lot like Robert Woods. Okay, it's a quality player.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
He's not a Hall of Famer. Plus 3 inches and minus, 0.2 of his 40. You know what I mean?
What you don't want is to hear Caleb Williams is like Jamarcus Russell.
Right.
That's you don't want that comp.
But at least put me in the neighborhood. You know, who do they play like?
So
stylistically.
he has Caleb Williams 1, and his comp is Aaron Rodgers on Caleb Williams. I haven't seen that one yet.
No, I haven't either. I hear Kyler a lot, and I hear Mahomes a lot.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, Mahomes is too rich. My first overall pick should be better than Kyler. Well,
right. Kyler was the first overall pick.
Right. People were pretty excited about him a couple years ago.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is his number 2 pick, and his comp is A.J. Green.
That's the one I heard is a faster version of Larry. I'm like, well, that's probably like the best player ever.
Yeah. Receiver that catches everything but fast.
And has ridiculous ball skills, et cetera. Right.
So he hasn't worked out at all.
I know.
In this process. With the 2 other receivers at the top of this draft.
It's a little bit playing with fire.
Yeah.
It's not most years because, Neighbors and Odunze would be first receivers taken often. Often. I still think Marvin's probably getting good enough advice and probably will be the first receiver off the board. But he's flirting with it a little more than I would be comfortable.
Yeah. He actually has Rome Odunze 3rd on his list, and his comp is Jamar Chase on Odunze.
I'm not sure I agree.
I don't see that
comp. I don't see the comparison there. But, I think my hunch is he's thinking do it all, good after the catch, physical. I don't think he's quite as abrupt or as sudden as Chase was out of his breaks.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger, though.
He's bigger.
A little bit taller, yeah.
Yeah, much bigger, actually.
Yeah.
4, he has Neighbors. That's what I'm saying with those 3 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They're close.
Yeah, especially if you're not putting position value on it.
Yeah.
They're elite prospects.
And Neighbors' comp is Stephon Diggs.
I may even say more explosive. There's not many that I would put in Neighbors' category of explosiveness. Diggs, though, I'm not taking anything away from Neighbors. This is just good coaching. They do a lot of scheme things to get him free. Where Diggs, especially on his best day,
he's a great route runner.
Just line up against a corner and beat him. You know, one-on-one.
5, he has Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
I agree with that. I have Daniels as my number 2 quarterback. And
I know you did.
Really close.
He was mine too.
Yeah.
I have him kind of tied with May right now. This isn't fair to him, but I wonder if you would take Drake May and plop him in LSU last year, or
which I understand.
Caleb Williams and drop him in LSU last year.
Here's my thing about and his comp, and this is why I have Daniels where he's at, and this is a great comp for him. I have his comp is Lamar Jackson with him. I think his running is pretty darn good.
Is really strong.
Yeah.
I do think Lamar at that age was a better runner, but they're in the same plane, the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he's a good thrower. He throws guys open. He does some good things. Great things, yeah.
6, he has Joe Alt, and the comp is Andrew Thomas.
Okay. That's fine. Thomas is a little more physically imposing. Just of moving his man stronger, powerful. Alt's a great technician and a really good athlete,
At 7 is Dallas Turner.
Okay.
And
that's rich for me.
The comp is Josh Allen. Well, if he's Josh Allen, then you would take.
You're talking about
the Jacksonville.
That's a good one.
Edge rusher, yeah.
A little more finesse than power.
Yeah.
But I think power plays at the next level. I wouldn't have Turner that high.
He has Terrion Arnold at 8, and the comp is Devin Witherspoon.
Feisty, tough. Okay, yeah. I don't mind that comp. Yeah.
At 9 is Drake May, and his comp is Justin Herbert.
It's kind of an obvious one. Physical traits are similar.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah, and had a semi-rough last year.
And if you remember, a lot of people weren't super high on Herbert coming out.
Oh, no. Tua went ahead of him.
Yeah.
And, they felt like he was
nobody blinked an eye when Tua went ahead of Herbert.
Not at all.
Now they say, how could they take Tua ahead of Herbert? Yeah. Well, that's where everybody had them ranked at.
Oregon didn't use him particularly well.
Yeah. Brock Bowers, 10, and he still has the comp is George Kittle.
I don't know who my comp would be with Bowers. Because Kittle's a killer in the run.
Oh, he's tremendous.
Bauer's effort's great and all that, but he's not as physical.
He's not that
Kittle.
guy. Yeah. Yeah, if you remember when Kittle came out, he was considered a blocking tight end, and then he goes out to at his pro day and runs like a 4.5.
I think Kittle in a straight line with the football in his hands beats Bowers in a race too.
Yeah, he has Olu Fashanu at 11, and the comp is Teron Armstead.
Good one.
Yeah,
I mean, really good pass protector, light on his feet, a lot of natural tools.
12 is Talisi Fuaga. The comp is Darnell Wright.
Okay. Recent one, obviously. Pure right tackle, run behind him guy, yeah.
Byron Murphy at 13. The comp is Justin Matabuke.
Good one.
I see that one.
I'm fine with that, yeah. Similar
that
body types. Yeah, they got a lot of common traits.
At 14, Jared Verse. The comp is Trey Hendrickson.
Okay. More of a power player than a dip and rip guy or a get low to the ground guy. I mean, he's power first.
15 is Quinion Mitchell, and the comp is Jalen Johnson.
Length
and speed. And,
yeah, okay.
16 is Troy Fatanu, and the comp is Peter Skoronsky.
That's a good one.
It's a good comp, but he's got longer arms.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he can play tackle.
Yes. This time we were pretty convinced Skoronsky's not a tackle.
Yeah.
And he never even got an opportunity on a really bad line.
Yeah.
Where I think Fatanu will.
17 is Brian Thomas, and the comp is T. Higgins.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, a little less refined.
This is where, at 18, he has a Donnie Mitchell, and the comp is George Pickens.
I see that.
Yeah.
And this isn't a knock on Pickens. This is Pickens as a prospect. Had a lot of questions, had a lot of inconsistencies, but had remarkable talent.
Yeah.
Mitchell, to me, I'm not saying, because Pickens never had an effort issue. Mitchell runs a lot of routes at like half speed and disappears at times, and I don't know what he's being taught to do. But his highlight, if you watch his highlight tape, you think he should
go number one, yeah.
Right. But there's a lot of, why did you run your route this way type of question.
He moved him. He had him at 30 on his original board. He moved him up to 18 after he saw him run a 4.33 at the combine.
So we haven't talked about this on the air, but if receivers, their glaring number one need come draft day, like both of us have said Thomas would fit the bill.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Mitchell, if I'm on board or not. I've gone back and forth in the back of my head on that. Like, if receiver almost has to be the pick, hypothetically, which I don't think they'll set themselves up that way.
Right, yeah.
Would you be comfortable with him at 20 or 22, 23? Maybe.
Maybe.
But I'd really have to sit down with the kid.
I'd have to see who else is available and, see what, how this is going to break. 19, he has Letu, the edge rusher out of UCLA, and the comp is Matthew Judon.
That's a good one.
It's a good comp. I like that one.
Physical, nasty, not super high ceiling athletically.
Yeah. This one is super interesting. At 20, as his number 3 cornerback, he has Enos Rakestraw, and the comp is Tre'Davious White.
Okay, a little undersized, really good technician, tough.
Yeah.
That's early for Rakestraw for me. I mean, I'm not putting him ahead of J.C. Latham or, some of the guys we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, Latham's still not.
Yeah, I'll say he's one that popped up that's not up there yet.
21, he has Tyler Guyton, and the comp is Lane Johnson.
Oh, I think that's a great comp. I mean, fast, straight line, Oklahoma, lean, great body type. Lane was rare coming out. I mean,
but is your number 3 tackle, 4 tackle?
Well, that's a little early for me, too.
Yeah.
But I like the comparison. Lane Johnson's a Hall of Famer, though.
Hall of Famer. That's what you're comping the guy to a Hall of Famer. 22 is J.J. McCarthy. The comp is Jake Plummer.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, it's not a flattering one, but they all shouldn't be Hall of Fame comparisons.
Jake Plummer started a lot of games in the league.
I think he was an early second-round pick.
Yeah. Jake Plummer took the Broncos to an AFC championship. The Steelers beat them, but
certainly had the grittiness and the toughness that you talk about with McCarthy.
23 is J.C. Latham, and the comp is Jawan Taylor.
Okay. I mean, I think his ceiling's higher than Taylor. He's more
you'd hope he's a more natural player than.
But, I mean, Taylor got big money just a year ago from the Chiefs. And, didn't have a great year.
24 is Amarius Mims, and the comp is Cam Robinson.
I don't know how you comp that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks different than everybody else, but he has no experience.
Yeah, just hasn't played.
Yeah.
And then 25, he has Ladd McConkey, and the comp is Tyler Boyd.
Faster, though. We actually talked about that.
A much faster version. He ran a 4.39 at the combine. Tyler Boyd was a 4.6 guy.
Mm-hmm. I think Boyd's the better blocker. I think McConkey can win on the outside more than Boyd could, too.
Yeah.
Because of the speed.
Because of the speed,
the outside releases, and right.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey.
Mm-hmm. No, I am, too.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here. We'll finish off this list when we come back. He is Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. And, we are live here at the NFL spring meetings here in Orlando at the Ritz-Carlton. We'll be here Monday as well, Tuesday, Wednesday, and doing shows here.
Yeah.
You can hear us
That's
every
a good,
day. We'll
good environment.
Get some guests on. We, of course, had Rob King on here in the first hour as well. But we'll be back with hour number 2 of The Drive right after this.
This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
You guys are hot.
Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we are at the Ritz-Carlton here in Orlando for the NFL spring meetings. Right outside, what is it, the Palazzo Salon?
Yeah.
Is that what that says? Palazzo Salon. Yeah.
That's the media room, I guess.
Yes, that's it. That is the media room. You can't really see it out the back here. Of course, you can't see it on the radio at all, but
no,
you
it's
get
a gorgeous view.
Beautiful view here of the
pools back
rotunda
there,
and everything there.
Stuff, yeah.
It's nice little site here. We are going over Matt Miller's top 50 prospects here on ESPN, and I like the comps.
The comps
part
are
of
fun,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's always a fun part
Good
of
way
it.
to
Makes me
visualize
think about the
them.
guys a little bit differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up to, we did the first 25 in the previous segment. Now we're down to number 26, and one of my favorite players in this draft, and that is Cooper DeJean, and the comp is L'Jarius Sneed. I like that comp.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, we did exactly what we were being critical of people being guilty of. We threw out Rod Woodson, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, okay, relax, you guys, But that's a good one. I mean, Sneed is a physical player.
Yeah.
Slot. I think he was a safety.
He was a
early in his
safety,
college career too. He'll hit. He's big. DeJean might be faster, in terms of just straight line speed. Might even be a little bit bigger, but in terms of usage, that's
and he offers the return ability as well.
Yeah,
I don't think
play
Sneed
the
is
run, tackler, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I love the player.
Mm-hmm.
Love the player.
I actually made him my number one corner in our triple take series.
I had him 2
fine now. Yeah,
so
I had him 3, and I kept looking at him like this doesn't sit right with me. If I'm drafted, that's who I'm taking.
At 27, Xavier Worthy. In the comp is obvious, Deshaun Jackson.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Tyreek Hill, but I'm glad. I think Jackson makes more
Jackson's
sense.
much more, and that's why I can't have him at 27. I can't
Probably
have him
not.
over some more established route runners and things of that. Now, he does that. It's not like he's just a speed guy.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackson was a really good football player who's also fast, and obviously those two things play off one another, of course. He wasn't the guy that goes to the combine, burns, but isn't really a good football player.
Right.
Worthy can play.
Worthy can play. Yeah, he is worthy of a pick
He's only like 160
but
pounds.
that's what I was just going to say. He's 5'11", 165 pounds, which is more like Deshaun Jackson.
Right. He's not Drew Archer. You
Right.
know, he's not one of those type of speed guys that's only good in space, but he's little.
At 28, he has Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Missouri. And I considered him a defensive tackle when we did our triple take.
I listed as an end just because NFL.com put him an end, but I think he'll spend more time between the tackles than outside.
Because he's 6'5", 285, but the comp is Cam Jordan.
I see that. I mean, Jordan is about that size. He's been used all over the line of scrimmage, interior pass rusher. I get it. The Saints will like him.
Yeah. At 29, Jackson Powers Johnson, and the comp is Frank Ragnow.
Okay.
And I'd like to remind people that Frank Ragnow was the 20th pick in the draft in 2018 when he came out by the Detroit Lions. And
he's a top 3 center in
with the retirement of Kelsey, he might be number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I was being conservative with top 3. He easily is that. Power player as well. You know, like a Linderbaum is 50 pounds lighter and a lot more agile and things like that.
Yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson is put together.
He really is. I mean, he's like a Coke machine. But he moves really well, too. He gets to second level, he can run.
Yeah, he was fun to watch at the Senior Bowl. You know, I talked to him after the first practice, and I'm like, you were like every time there was a running play or something like that, you're getting to the second level, and then you look and he's running beside the running back down the field, like a lot of that.
I was about to say, I love his playing temperament.
Yeah,
you know, like he sets the tone. First guy in the line, back to the huddle, you know, go, energy guy.
Yeah. At 30, he has Graham Barton, the center from Duke, and his comp is Cody Whitehair.
Okay. Whitehair, to his detriment, the Bears moved from guard to
he's
center.
And that may be why he's
and James Daniels was part of that shell game there too, and they never could quite figure it out. We even talked about this, but I'm not 100% uncertain that he can't be a right tackle.
I think he can play tackle. Yeah,
I wouldn't draft him at 20 to be a tackle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't include him in this tackle group.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But if you were loaded on the interior, I mean, like I think Dallas.
If you're looking at position flexible players, he gives you flexibility to play at any of 4 spots.
Yeah,
he's not a left. He's not going to play left.
No,
in
not
NFL.
in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
You know, but just bringing up Dallas and Miami because they have
multiple
2 or
needs.
3 spots on the O line. He's like a glue guy.
Yeah. 31. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson, and the comp is Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie.
I like that one. I mean, he was a speedster, long, man-to-man, outside the numbers dude that didn't love tackling. Yeah.
At 32, how about this? So he had the Jackson Powers Johnson at 29, Graham Barton at 30. He has Zach Frazier at 32. So the 3 centers all grouped together there.
Yeah.
And the comp on Zach Frazier, Creed Humphrey.
Okay. Humphrey's a very agile, tough guy, wrestling background as well. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So it would be a right-handed
I mean,
Creed Humphrey.
There's not many lefty centers, but right, like a lefty catcher.
Yeah. At 33, Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker out of Texas A&M, and the comp is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Obviously a bigger version.
Yeah, I'd say he's bigger.
Yeah.
I think Owusu-Koramoah is faster, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a strong safety, like, speed guy.
Yeah.
It's not a bad one, though. It's a run-and-hit player.
At 34, he has Jerzon Newton, or Johnny Newton, as he's being called today. He said he prefers Johnny at the combine. So but
I guess we should call him Johnny.
The given name is Jerzon.
Yeah,
but
you still see him listed as Jerzon at these sites.
Yeah. That's why there's the difference there. Just depends on which site you're looking at. The comp is Grady Jarrett.
Yeah, good one. He's another one that hasn't worked out yet. Everyone talks about DeJean.
Yeah,
Newton hasn't done a thing yet just because of injuries. No, Grady Jarrett would have been drafted much higher today than when he came out.
Yeah.
You know, there's been more of a precedent for those undersized Aaron Donald, Geno Atkins types.
And he has some pass rush abilities.
Oh, yeah.
35, Chop Robinson, the edge rusher out of Penn State, and the comp is Josh Sweat.
Okay, I would think like a Yannick Ndakwe or an Owe or somebody like that.
I think he's he might be better against a run than Ndakwe was. Ndakwe's just a speedball off
He's
the edge.
just a third down player, but that's what he does well. His get off is great. He's very athletic, not super productive.
At 36 is Keon Coleman, the wide receiver out of Florida State, and the comp is Drake London.
That's rich for me. I mean, I think London is the 10th to 15th best receiver on the planet, and his rare separation skills for somebody that big Coleman, to me, is a little more contested. But I see what he's going with. I mean, he's a big guy that'll win.
We'll go up and get it. Yeah.
Right, block. I mean, physical. Keon Coleman in round 2 for you for the Steelers. You in on that?
Oh, I'd be in on that, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. At 37, Bo Nix, the quarterback out of Oregon. And the comp, I don't get this comp. Dak Prescott.
Dak doesn't get nearly enough credit for what he does pre-snap and cerebral and all those things. And Dak's not as athletic as he used to be or the biggest arm in the league. Wins above the neck more than people see. It wouldn't be my comp, but I see where he's going with it.
I would see, so he has Michael Penix next, and his comp for Michael Penix is Tua Tagovailoa. I think Nix is closer to Tua
maybe
than Penix is.
Yeah, although I would love to see Dak in that Miami offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Tua's a really quick processor. That's his, and they built the offense perfectly around him. I think Dak would even be better in the Miami offense than Tua, or even better than he is in the Dallas offense.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
I mean, is he comparing Michael Penix to Tua just because they're both left-handed?
I think so. I think that's.
I mean, Penix is a down-the-field thrower.
I don't think they're similar at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
other than being left-handed quarterbacks.
And I also think my concern with both of them, though, is they're not natural playmakers off script. Can they avoid? They'll have very few rushing yards between the two of them at the NFL level. They don't avoid free rushers very well. But Penix is a much better arm talent, downfield thrower. Yeah.
At 39, he has Xavier Legette, the wide receiver out of South Carolina, and the comp is Jonathan Mingo.
Mingo, to me, is not as fast or as straight line powerful. He was a little more gadgety, throw behind the line of scrimmage. I know they did some of that with Legette, too. Again, the comps are hard because you always go for the big dogs. But I think he's a little more A.J. Brown-ish. Michelob Ultra version. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, A.J. Brown's one of the best.
Yeah, Legette's kind of a power-type player.
Power player, run through tackles, get him in space. Yeah.
40, he has Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle out of Arizona, and the comp is Deion Dawkins.
Oh, I don't see that at all.
Yeah, I don't see that one.
Deion Dawkins is like 350, big belly on him, mash you. He's
Morgan's light on his feet.
Yeah.
But
I think he's more of a guard / movement guy.
Yeah.
Light feet, like you said, outside zone. Get on the move.
At 41, he has Braden Fisk, the defensive tackle out of Florida State, and the comp is Zach Seiler.
Okay. I mean, they're both effort guys that don't blow you away with arm length and all their other skills. I mean, he's a good athlete. He tested extremely well, but I guess I see that.
42, he has Tavondre Sweat, and the comp is Jordan Davis.
So you don't mean to pick from there. Right.
Give me the big,
He played more snaps than Davis did, though. Which is impressive.
At 43, he has Jatavian Sanders, and the comp is Trey McBride.
I think McBride's a better receiver at the catch point and setting up routes, but he also did very little as a rookie, too. So if you look at him as prospects, they're second-round players.
That might be a little rich for me for Sanders.
Yeah. I think he's a Darren Waller.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah. At 44, he has Roman Wilson, the wide receiver out of Michigan, and the comp is Santana Moss.
Ooh, Santana Moss was an electric 5'9". Wilson's faster than people think, though.
He ran a 4.39.
Yeah, I mean, he can fly. I think he's more than a slot. Santana Moss was a heck of a player, though, coming out of the U.
I understand. I think Wilson's pretty good.
I do, too.
They just didn't throw it. They never threw the football.
No, the production doesn't bother me with him.
Yeah.
No.
At 45, he has Jonathan Brooks, first running back on the board, and the comp is Aaron Jones.
Good one.
I see that one, yeah.
Yeah, good receiver, well-rounded.
Similar size.
Yeah, long speed. Okay.
Yeah. At 46, Junior Colson, the linebacker out of Michigan, and his comp is Nick Bolton.
Taller, bigger.
Yeah.
But great at aligning guys, smart, maybe doesn't run the best 40 of all time. Okay, there's some comparisons there.
Yeah. 47 is Malachi Corley, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan. And once again, the comp is Jonathan Mingo.
Oh, you're using that one.
Johnny Mingo twice. Johnny Mingo. Somebody, wow. You look like somebody walked across your grave.
I mean, they scheme a lot up for him like they did Mingo.
Yeah.
I think Corley might be better after the catch, breaking tackles, running through the secondary.
Yeah. At 48, he has Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon, and the comp is Deontay Johnson.
I think he's probably faster, better long speed than Johnson. He should pattern his game route running off after Johnson.
Yeah.
Neither one's a great blocker. I mean, Franklin's a zero blocker. Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah. At 49, he has Tyler Nubin, the safety out of Minnesota, and the comp is Justin Simmons.
I think that's dead on.
Yeah.
Tall, do it all, smart. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then at 50 is Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback out of Alabama, and his comp is Joey Porter Jr. I don't see that one. Joey's much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Joey is more gifted of the two. I mean, he said longer, faster, less refined, though. I mean, McKinstry started as a true freshman for Nick Saban. I mean, he's not that he wins entirely from the neck up, but he's great from the neck up, and can fit every scheme, better in man than zone, as Porter is. I don't really see that comp, though.
Yeah. I just said with I don't know who you would comp Joey Porter Jr. to.
It's a tough one. I mean, it would be a man cover press guy
who's 6,
who has rare length,
very length.
Yeah. Think on that one. I'm bad at comps, but that's a tough one. There
That's
aren't
a tough
many
one.
of those.
Yeah.
There aren't many of those.
He might be a unicorn.
Yeah,
to a certain degree.
It's not Richard Sherman. Sherman was an off-ball guy,
and he didn't run well. Yeah,
didn't run as well. Right. I don't know.
Anyways, that was the top 50 for Matt Miller on ESPN, and you can check that out on there. But yeah, it's always interesting. It makes you think about the guys a little bit differently when you throw the comps in there.
Especially whenever you think about like how was the comp used in the NFL? Where did he win? Can he win that way? Like, this is a much bigger conversation, but I have some reservations against the Wilsons, McConkeys, if they can only play slot.
Yeah.
Because you get pushed around a lot there. I mean, like, you better show me, if I'm taking that guy in the second round, he needs to show me he can win outside. I think both those guys can.
Yeah.
But, like, that mold of player, the Welkers of the world aren't as prevalent as they used to be.
No, they aren't. That's for sure. The league has changed. College football's changed.
Yeah.
In that regard as well, with some of the stuff that they're asked to do.
Blocking at receiver and playing the run at corner has become a much bigger deal than it used to be, too. With all this nickel, dime, light boxes, right. You have,
absolutely.
They're going to run Nick Chubb right at you.
Yeah, all day long.
All day long.
All day long.
Right.
You're going to have to
Especially
tackle
if that receiver can block a little bit.
Yeah, you can't run away from him.
Right.
Because they're going to find you.
They're going to find you.
Anyways, let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. We are at the NFL spring meetings here at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. We will be back with more from the Ritz-Carlton right after this.
Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Mics are hot.
Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And we are live here at the NFL spring meetings in Orlando and continuing our coverage here on Steelers Nation Radio. And Matt, we've had a nice conversation there earlier with Rob King about some of the Steeler moves here. One move that people had did, there had been some rumors that the Steelers might have been asking about L'Jarius Sneed. Mm-hmm. The trade went down Saturday, I guess it was.
Yeah, it's been a couple days now.
Yeah. But he gets shipped to Tennessee. Tennessee's been active.
I think they're pushing things in. They had a ton of cap space. The new regime, new GM from a year ago. I think ownership's saying, hey, we need more from you guys. And I give them credit for building, and I think they'll continue to do this with an offensive line draft pick or two, at least putting Levis in a situation we need to evaluate him. Like Carolina's doing the same thing. Like maybe we're overspending on guards, but at least in the end, maybe we're overspending on Ridley. But in the end, I'll at least have an answer on Young and Levis and say, I gave you everything. Did you perform or not?
It's interesting that he was traded for a third-round pick and a swap of 2024 seventh-round draft picks.
It's an odd trade. It's a next year third rounder
right.
too, right?
Yeah, next year's third rounder. That's what they would have gotten at the very least if they let him hit free agency next year.
Mm-hmm.
So why not hold on to him
and try to win?
Yeah.
Well, and except he eats cap space this year.
I understand
that's
that,
a big
but
month.
do they? I mean, they've cleared enough space to make the moves that they've already made. What are they clearing something for something additional?
That's my thought too. Is there and I don't know the Chiefs cap like the back of my hand or anything, but I do know they can borrow from the Bank of Mahomes.
Right.
They can.
Which they've already done this year. They already
did that.
Yeah.
And that made space for Marquise Brown and Chris Jones and
Yeah.
all those guys. But it is odd that it's a next year third because that's the same as a comp.
Right.
Although you think the Titans pick's going to be earlier than the end of the third round. Granted. And you don't know. Maybe their plan next year is they're going to spend more than they lose. Then you wouldn't be in the comp game either.
Right.
I don't know enough of their future situation. But the swap of seventh round picks is like, throw me a cracker on top. It's like nothing. And I'm sure there's a lot of people going across every city. Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Well,
now that the Titans now have to pay him,
and that hasn't worked out much lately.
Yeah.
Where and I think the league has adjusted. Where I'm not giving you 2 firsts for Jamal Adams or even Khalil Mack, who's a much better player than Adams, and paying him. That you got to be really special. And I know like the Steelers have been rumored with Ayuk and things like that. It's like to give up a first for any player or multiple firsts for any player and a huge chunk of cap space
doesn't make good financial sense in the long term.
I mean, usually that doesn't. History's shown over the salary cap era, the last decade, that the team getting the picks wins.
Yeah.
And
now,
I'm not saying
I'll say this: the receivers that have gotten moved in recent years
hasn't been bad.
Hasn't been bad at all.
A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Usually that's for like a first and an extension.
Right.
At stage of their career, like in Ayuk, where he's just hitting his stride.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you know what you're getting.
So I think a big reason the Snead is not a Steeler, though, is they're the highest spending defense in the league and the lowest spending offense. And I don't think you want to make that
continue that balance.
Keep pushing it the other way too. I think you want another balance. And it's not Vegas here. You're not trying to get players or people to bet on both sides, so you're 16th in both.
Yeah.
The goal is to win games. It doesn't matter where the money goes, but you don't want to be so extreme on one side of spending. It just makes things tough. And I think they like this corner class.
Yeah, and the cornerback position as a whole, we've talked about this before. The variance from year to year is tremendous.
Very volatile. I mean, part of this is because Pro Football Focus now exists, which I don't put a lot of stock in their corner grades. But I do think if you polled a GM or a defensive back coach and said, give me the top 10 corners of 2000 or give me the top 10 corners in 2020, 2022, and 2024. I bet there wouldn't be many names on all 3 lists.
It's really different. I had to do when I did the vote for the Hall of Fame in 2019. It just so happened to be at the end of the decade, so I also had to vote on the 2010 All-Decade team.
Oh, okay.
And putting the corners together on that list was like you're looking at it and like, okay, this guy's making it. That guy
Woodson and Dion and those guys are easy.
Those guys are.
There's a couple easy ones, right?
But then you start looking at that third or fourth guy, and you're like, okay, this guy had a really good
2 years.
2 out of 5 years were really good, but the other 3 were
Yeah.
So that was the hard part of it.
Yeah, it's a hard position, not to invest in, but to count on a little bit. Year to year, it's a little bit volatile, and I think part of it's because it's so reaction. I think it's the position that athleticism means the most.
Yeah.
And if I have a toe or an ankle or a knee that's 80%, not 100%. Well, maybe that year I'm not quite as good. Or how do they employ me? You know, what's my pass rush like? I mean, it's like,
what quarterbacks do I play this year?
Who do I play this year?
Yeah.
Who's in my
what
division?
Receivers am I going up
Am
against?
I following like Porter, or am I left righting it like Sauce? You know, I mean.
Well, that was that was the interesting, or the very good part about Joey Porter Jr. last year as a rookie, that he showed he could follow guys.
That's deep. I mean, that's throwing in the deep end stuff.
Yeah, that holds. Like when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Now you've shown me that you can do it, but B, maybe that is better for your long-term progression, that you're not going to fall off the cliff.
I tend to think so too. You know that, hey, you're going to be a heavy man press corner guy against the best guys out there, and you showed it at an early age. You went over some hurdles that other corners didn't at your developmental stage. After
and
year
I think
one.
Sometimes as well, when you look at these cornerbacks, like maybe L'Jarius Sneed, I don't know how different Tennessee's scheme is going to be from Kansas City.
I don't either.
And what he was going to, what's he going to be asked to do? Like he was you just cover this guy. Like he followed number one receivers all season last year
into the slot too.
Yeah,
I mean, right. I mean,
is Tennessee going to ask him to do that?
See,
and how different is their scheme to be able to do that?
Like from a Steelers perspective, it would be awesome to have two number one corners that follow number one receivers. But it's not needed.
Right.
You know, like, it's not like
Like if you have two of those guys, you're just going to stay on sides.
That's what I'm saying. Do you just make them left-right then? Or
unless you're playing the Bengals and you go, okay, we want this guy on Higgins,
exactly
we want this guy on,
right. This guy is a better matchup against this particular receiver. It would be a wonderful flexibility tool, but it might be also a bit of a luxury too.
Yeah.
I mean, especially after making the Carolina trade. I mean, I think you have your number two corner, and I think day two sets up really well to draft another.
So I agree.
So I would rather use that resource on offense.
Yeah, I would as well, and so would be nice to add a guy like that, but not necessary. And I'd
rather sign him in free agency without the pick too.
Yeah,
the double whammy's a little rough.
That's the tough part, and it goes back to the Justin Fields trade. I was not in on trading a day one or day two pick on that guy.
On him, yeah.
Now, when you start saying, well, it's a future day three pick, okay, now I'm interested.
Sure, I'll roll the dice.
Now I'm interested because I'm and the Steelers haven't done anything with him yet, and they're going to have to make a decision, early May whether they pick up that fifth-year option. I would guess that they do not.
Right.
At $25 million, they have to also make that decision on Najee Harris. But you can sign those guys to long-term deals, to extensions.
Oh, of course.
Take that out of the equation.
Yeah, and now he's a Steeler. You're going to get to know him better, and you're going to have more communications with him. You could wait a couple of weeks and be like, I'm in on what he's doing. I'll offer him a contract before that May 2nd, or it doesn't even have to be. There's no deadline for offering the contract.
Right, you can do that
in training camp.
Yeah. Like the Ravens.
That's what I'd like to do.
The Ravens could have done that with Patrick Queen. They could have said, "Hey, Patrick, we're not going to give you that fifth-year option, but we'd like to give you an extension anyways." Whether
the writing was on the wall.
Whether they had those conversations or not, I don't know.
See, I bet not with that one because they made Roquan the highest-paid linebacker. You
couldn't have $30 million tied up in your linebackers.
And when they drafted Trenton Simpson last year in the third round, everyone on the planet knew the world that was coming.
Yeah, I've seen the Ravens must not have liked Patrick Queen because they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. That doesn't necessarily that's not necessarily the case. You can't have too much spending at one position.
No, and I think they adored Roquan, and there was questions about Queen when they made the Roquan trade. It's a very important position in their offense, communication-wise, as well as middle-of-the-field stuff. They stress taking away the middle of the field more than any defense in the league. And Queen outkicked his coverage, really. I mean, we haven't talked much about this, and I don't feel super strong about it, but it seems a little odd to me that on May 2nd of 2024, I have to make this decision. It
is a strange time to do it.
I mean, it was really weird for Jordan Love. It was weird for Daniel Jones. Fields is not going to be able to. He's not going to get that picked up. But he's at least played and gave us some tape to go off of. But it's pretty early in someone's career to really make that decision.
Yeah, 3 years in.
Because it's a big decision.
It's a huge decision, especially for the quarterback position.
Yeah,
because you're paying that guy when you pick it up now, and those rules all changed with the new CBA a couple of years ago, where it used to be they were slotted in. And so, you're the 28th pick. This is what you get.
Yeah.
Now it's
Pro Bowls and things like that.
Pro Bowls are factored in. Now it's like the transition tag number, even if you didn't do that. It's a bigger number than it used to be.
And Pro Bowls, we know what they're not exactly set in stone. He's one of the best players.
Well, I think with that, you have to be voted into the Pro Bowl.
Oh, okay. You're not the alternate.
You can't be the alternate. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even at that,
even at that, yeah. It's something, though. I mean, at least the best players are getting the most money, but that makes it even more of a tough decision. It's just tough in sometimes these quarterbacks' careers. Do I really want him to become a free agent? I mean, the Giants were scared to death of what if Jones has a big year?
And we don't have anybody. Yeah.
Right. And then we're stuck. That's not how you should make decisions, though, either.
No, I agree with you for sure.
I think Najee's an easy one.
Yeah, I think you pick Najee up and
because
move on.
Running backs are cheap as could be for as
it's like $6 million, a little over $6 million. That's a drop in the bucket.
It's a different conversation than a franchise tag the following year.
Yeah,
it's almost double that.
But it'd be the weird part of it is so the Steelers, I believe, fully guaranteed Najee's rookie contract. So he'll have played his first 5 years in the league at fully guaranteed money.
Why did they do that? What was the logic behind that?
I think it was just because of the position.
Okay. I think that's rare in the league. I don't know contracts well enough, but I think that's rare.
I believe it's the first time the Steelers have done anything like that.
Yeah, I'd say that's a compliment to the player, I assume. Yeah. Okay.
But, it's the going rate now. I think a lot of teams are now doing that with their first-round draft picks where you lock in that money fully
I need to look into that. I don't
know
know much about that situation. I'm not sure why you do it if you don't have to.
I think that's just kind of the going rate now for these guys in the first round. But we'll see how that works out here. But I think they pick up Najee Harris's deal.
I think the fifth year they definitely do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They plan on running him quite a bit. After that, it's more of a decision time.
Yeah, he's one of your foundational pieces of your offense now, especially with Arthur Smith.
Not showing any signs of slowing down or anything like that either. I mean, extensions are the different conversation, but picking up that at guaranteed money is fine.
Absolutely. We're going to get to another break.
Right.
He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. We are here at the NFL meetings in Orlando. Things will be picking up more tomorrow. We'll talk about a little bit more about some of those things here and when we come back after this on The Drive.
This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR Steelers Nation Radio.
Mics are hot.
Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. We are at the NFL spring meetings here in Orlando, and one of the big reasons we're here, Matt, will happen later today when Mike Tomlin will meet with the media here, the local media. So the way this works, he has a sit down with the local media. It's the only time in the off season that he speaks. So this will be our first opportunity to talk to him about all the off-season moves that the Steelers have made. Maybe some planning of some other stuff, moves that have yet to be made.
Sure.
Of course, he's not going to tell us exactly what's going to
all
happen.
their plans,
but we're going to talk about just everything that's kind of happened.
And that's just with you guys, right?
That's just with the local media. Then tomorrow morning, they have the tomorrow morning the coaches' breakfast. Yeah, that's tomorrow morning's the coaches' breakfast, where all the coaches sit down. The AFC coaches tomorrow, the NFC coaches on Tuesday, and they have a breakfast and a sit down with the national media.
So how I remember it, and it was the first time I saw it, was there was 16 big round tables, one for each team, and Belichick was over here, Reed was over here, Tomlin was over here, and whoever can sit down with them and ask them questions.
Whatever you want to ask.
Kind of roam around, and it's free reign to whoever's in there, and they'll answer as long as they. I guess there's a time limit. I mean,
it's limited to a half an hour.
It's a half hour that everybody, and the next day rinse repeat with the NFC.
Yeah. And sometimes Mike shows up a little late for those, oftentimes, but he has done his major media stuff. Will happen today. Mm-hmm. Like he'll sit down with us for basically. I've done this in the past. It's usually about an hour, and just answers everything, and it's a great time to pick his brain on some stuff, and obviously
one of the best sessions of the year for you guys. Yeah,
and with the moves that the Steelers have made this offseason, it's going to be an interesting session, I would say.
I can't wait to dig into it too. So that happens this afternoon.
That'll be this afternoon. Omar Khan's,
we'll talk about that a lot tomorrow, I'm sure. Yeah.
Omar Khan's scheduled to speak to the media tomorrow in the afternoon, and then we'll hear from Art Rooney II on Tuesday, pretty much when everything wraps up about any of the rule changes that happen here. So that's kind of what you're looking forward to. So you're going to see this is going to happen. Basically, this is happening for all 32 teams in the league. Mm-hmm. Their head coach will speak and those kind of things. The GM or whoever their team president will speak. So you're going to see just a glut of NFL news out there. We're already starting to see some
blurbs
stuff
everywhere. How they react to all these different things. No, that's going to be cool. And from our perspective for the drive, we'll be reacting the next day to whatever they talked about, the previous day.
Absolutely. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about tomorrow for sure. After hearing from Mike Tomlin twice.
That's great.
By the time we go on the air tomorrow, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. And starting to see some blurbs here. Robert Saleh saying he welcomes the quietness of the 2023 offseason after all the 2024 offseason after all the noise that was made last year because they went out. They made a move at quarterback.
Yeah. They made a monumental move. That makes sense. There's never quietness though.
No.
Now it's going to be like, it's the pressure's on, and you didn't get anything out of Rodgers. You're in New York. It's not going to be quiet.
Yeah. Jared Mayo, the new head coach in New England, said all options are on the board, are still open for the number 3 overall pick in the draft.
Do you think they're listening?
I think they'd be silly not to.
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are more than Washington is.
Yeah. Dan Quinn says it's fair to envision. He's the new coach in Washington. He said it's fair to envision the Commanders drafting a quarterback.
I think it's fair to envision that. Yeah. I don't know if it's set in stone in their mind yet, but I think it's set in stone that's going to happen. I mean, what I said meant was Whoopi May, Whoopi Daniels, maybe it's McCarthy.
You just don't know who.
But that's going to be a quarterback.
Brian Dayball said that Daniel Jones is the guy when he returns from his ACL injury.
Yeah, he's far from out of the woods for being cleared yet. They really need to add weapons, but I wonder when they consider a quarterback in the draft. Could it be at 6 if the right guy's there? Could it be at 37, 38, wherever they pick, if it's a Penix or a Nix or somebody like that? Maybe. I forget, who did they get as the backup? I think they signed a brand-name quarterback. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'm just looking here. They do have an out after the 2024 season without, where he would just be
it's not a crazy contract.
It's a $22.2 million cap hit in dead cap money that they would carry over to 2025 if they would move on from Daniel Jones after the season. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not crippling, and we talked on the last segment about how they had were stuck on that 5th-year option situation with him. Probably regret the decision they made, but to be fair to Jones, he also got hurt last year. So he did some good things his first year with Dayball, but I think you have to look at that too. And can he be a difference maker? Could he be a truck instead of a trailer? And I lean towards no.
They signed Drew Lock.
Lock, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was somebody they were excited about. Yeah, and I guess
they're kind of Daniel Jones and Drew Lock are kind of the same.
They
dude.
have a lot of similarities.
The same dude.
Yeah, they're in the same draft class. They're both very athletic. Some inconsistencies, Lock's interesting to me. Like I don't look at him and be like, oh, he might be the answer. But if you look at what happened to him recently, Seattle insisted on getting him back in the Wilson deal. So they didn't think he was a throwaway in that trade. And then they go into next season and say it's going to be a Lock Geno Smith race. And I was like, are you insane?
Yeah, that's what you're going to settle on?
And I think they like both. Geno ended up winning and did good things. And then when he left Seattle, I think Seattle's GM said something along the lines of, well, the Giants said that he could be in the mix for a starting job. We weren't willing to give that to him at this stage because we're so happy with Geno, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what's true and what was said or not, but I don't know that he's just a total throwaway, lifetime backup, forget about him guy.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, Daniel Jones could be a quarterback who's on the open market next year.
I think there's a good chance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of what he does this year.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if you look at next year, his base salary is $30 million and his cap is $41 million. They may just look at it and say, Daniel, we like you. Mm-hmm. We don't like you at $41 million.
Right. So he could be a cap casualty. I mean, he needs to have a pretty good year.
Yeah.
To get that money back.
Which could be tough for him coming off an ACL.
Could be.
Especially for the way he plays the game.
Exactly. It sounds like it's a ways away till he's ready.
Yeah. And there's some, we talked about Connor Williams last week a lot. That situation
like that,
with these guys coming back off ACLs, it's tough.
Especially late in the year ones. So Jones was a lot earlier than Williams, but still pivotal time in your career when, not for long. I mean, that's what the league's all about. You got to take advantage while you can.
Absolutely.
So
we'll start.
Situation.
We'll start hearing more news like that. That's going to start happening here. Obviously, there'll be a lot of questions around the league about, why did the Chiefs trade L'Jarius Sneed, which we just talked about, or what's the Rams' plan with Aaron Donald's retirement, things like that.
Then more problems will spring up, and an interesting thing. Just back to the Giants, real quick, like. Let's say they love McCarthy and he falls to 6 and they grab him. But then he's not throwing to anybody. That's almost pigeonholed to be a receiver, even if it's Brock Bowers. I mean, just give me the best receiver available. So no matter who my quarterback is, I at least have something more than Wan'Dale Robinson and those type of guys. Waller might retire. So is this a year to do that? I mean, maybe the second round it is, but I don't know. In first round, that's the best thing for your team now.
Yeah. No, it's tough.
The way, so you got to wait that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And you also, this is a situation. Everybody talks about the combine being a place where some deals get made, because all the teams are there. Oh, well, now here you've got all the NFL movers and shakers are all here.
The decision makers.
Are here, and
the scouts aren't here.
You're sitting around. And you say, well, what would it take to get T. Higgins off of you, for example?
Yeah. I mean, it's worth having that conversation. I'm sure there's plenty of agents floating around, if not all of them. I mean, why would there not be?
Yeah.
I think there could be a lot of movement this week. Maybe not even set in stone. It comes out, here's a trade.
Or extension talks with agents and things of that nature. Yeah, you start those.
Absolutely.
You start down that road with those things. And, the Steelers have some guys that, do they extend Pat Freiermuth this offseason?
I think that could be in the cards.
I think that's in the cards. Probably doesn't happen until closer to training camp.
Sure.
But
not a priority right now.
Yeah. But there's things like that are coming down the pike here, and those are things that
they already made a decision on Deontay. I mean, it was pretty clear. I don't think they were going to give him the money he wants a year from now. So no, those things. There's a lot of big picture stuff, and I always talk about this with draft picks too. Like, why did that team draft that guy? Well, because someone a year from now is coming up with free agency. That wasn't a need.
The writing's on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, they tell you what they think. It's just like the Simpson Queen thing.
Absolutely.
With the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it for our show today, Matt.
Fun. Yeah,
absolutely fun. We want to thank Rob King for stopping by and dropping in to talk to us here. And, I want to thank my partner, Matt Williamson, here, as usual.
Thank you.
I want to thank Justin back in the studio, keeping us on the air. And we want to thank you for listening and watching, if you're watching us on YouTube.
How about Gerard, the fine work he's doing?
Gerard doing the job here. Gerard Schaefer, our intrepid cameraman here, keeping us on the air as well. We want to thank everybody for watching and listening to this edition of The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio.